And so I just put my thoughts down in these letters.
Wow, there's a lot there.
Hmm.
It's hearing you talk about, as you're talking, I just kept thinking about all the compounding, the compounding stress of, um, of when things just, maybe it felt like you just were, can I ever get a break? Can I ever get a break? Right from the time that you were little. So I kind of want to go back for a minute and just ask you, what was it like? Obviously, it was a very conflicting relationship with your father, but to come here and to meet a man who is virtually a stranger to you and in a country that was not your own, what what is that? What does that first feel like, as as a from the lens of you being excuse me, that 10-year-old little boy? What was that like? Was there fear? Was there a hopefulness? Was there like a combination of those things?
Well, like I just knew that we were going to Canada, and my dad lives in Canada, and we came up here when we got here, and like growing up as a child, I had a very independent mind. Like I'd say what's on my mind, and little to no filter. So
Mm-hmm.
um, but with that being said, I didn't have any real preconceived notions about what things might be with my dad or what it might look like. It's just that, hey, I'm gonna go live with my dad, both my parents. You know what I mean? So that was it. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically it for me. I really had didn't have any preconceived notions of what it may look like. But as time went on, I understood where we what he was becoming. So
Right. And
yeah.
probably so many factors probably weighing on him as well, right?
I grew up in a home where we like just growing up, even with my mom back in Nigeria. She was an independent lady as far as work. She had her own business. I mean, she had her own bakery.
Mm-hmm.
She's very successful. Like I went to a private school in Nigeria and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So like I had a very strong mom to begin with. So I was never in search of a dad or felt like I needed a dad or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But once my mom came here, she kind of encountered what she had to encounter, and everything kind of went downhill from there. And yeah,
Yeah, there's so many when we're trying to find our place in the world, it's it can be beautiful, but it can be heartbreaking at the same time. We make decisions wondering if we made the best decision and we can't turn back on those decisions. And so, Lanre, when you were first incarcerated, I have done some work in prisons. I myself have never been incarcerated, but I have worked with some different projects in prisons and had the privilege of talking to some of the people in those situations, both men and women. And I've worked and done some stuff with young offenders. And what I guess I'm curious about is, for those of us who have never had that experience, and this may sound like almost like such a ridiculously simple question, but what does it feel like to actually face the reality of, either that first night or that next morning when you wake up and you're like, this is it, and you're looking around and you're looking at those four walls and you know that this is the next however long of your life?
well, remember when you said early on, like it seems like you must have been thinking like, oh, when can I get a break? When can I be like
Mm-hmm.
things got so down, it went down so downhill for me. It became ridiculously funny. Like when one thing to another, from
Mm-hmm.
one thing to another, it just became ridiculously funny and surreal at the same time. Whereas like, am I dreaming? Is this a dream? Like
Right.
there were times I really thought because it was just so perfect. Some of the things that happened were so perfectly scripted. It was just unbelievable, you know. So, but those first couple of days in there was just like I was just like trying to get my bearings. Tell you the truth
Mm-hmm.
of it all. Like again, like going from one country to another, and then elementary school to high school, those were adjustments. But going from being a quote unquote free person in society to being incarcerated,
Exactly.
that's That's an adjustment.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's an adjustment because when you're incarcerated, you could, depending on how long you're incarcerated for, you could pretty much know what you're going to be doing at the same time on the same day the next year. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
So everything's kind of monotonous and whatnot,
Hmm.
but you just try to make the best of the time. You know, there's a saying, don't let the time do you. You
Right.
do the time,
Yeah. So how do you do that? Like, um, how did you begin to, because talking to you now, you're, and there's proof, there's historical proof that you are an emotionally healthy person and that you've made some incredible adjustments despite, what for many people would seem like insurmountable odds.
Mhm.
How did you keep yourself like emotionally healthy in when you were in that space?
Um, I growing up, like I said, like I was very insightful growing up. Like I like to read and whatnot. So my imagination was always, and I was the only child for a long time. So I could easily get into my own mind and get lost in my mind. So being incarcerated allowed me to do that. You know what I mean? So, but I maintained like first of all reading. Like this stuff you gotta do to maintain a healthy mind state in general in life.
Mm-hmm.
You're incarcerated, you have to do these things. In life, you might get away with it, but you have to do it while you're incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, writing, exercising. These are basic healthy stuff that the body needs, the mind needs.
Right.
So those are the things I did, like I said, I did the time instead of letting the time do me, and writing the letters was part of it. So I often was involved in things in the prison. So even though I was incarcerated, I embraced the world prison had to offer and what they had to offer. Whatever I could gain access to, I gained the access to,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. So
Yeah, that's yeah. Wow. So now your daughter, you mentioned something, and there's words you used. You said, "I thought I'd take a chance and start writing her letters." Why that choice of words?
well, like I said, I wasn't too sure because she was so young. Like the letters would might get to her, but who's gonna read it to her? And her mother and I weren't really on good terms at that point. Like I said, I had difficulty even getting a hold of her mom to talk to my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't too sure where. So that's why I said I took the chance because like I had to deal with some heartbreaking moments while I was incarcerated. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
After I got convicted, like I said, I like before I got incarcerated, I had a girlfriend, and she was the mother of my daughter. But when I got incarcerated, uh, she wasn't really forthcoming with what she was doing out here as far as moving on. So I was under the impression that we're still together while I was like the
Mm-hmm.
first year or so. And so like out 2 days after I got convicted, where it was like official, yeah, he's gonna go do time, I got a Dear John letter from her. So those little, those moments, those heartbreaking moments, I had to endure a lot of those. So,
Mm-hmm.
so, um, I mean, over time, I just made the best of what was given to me. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had to make the best of what was given to me, even like going as far as talking about the talking to when I get the chance to talk to the mother of my daughter, I would talk more than just about myself or what I'm going through. I'll talk to her about what she's going through and whatnot. And over another positive thing that came clear is that over the years while I was incarcerated, when we did get the chance to talk, especially in the end of it, I got a clear understanding of where I need to go and where she needed to go. You know what I mean? As far as
Yeah.
mother. So I actually helped her, and she helped me too, just from us talking. While I was
Mm-hmm.
incarcerated. So
Wow. It's amazing what the ability to be able to connect with people can do, right?
oh
Like,
yeah. That's one thing I noticed. Um, like for people who are out here free in the society, and you need somebody to talk to, you need to get a hold of somebody in prison.
Mm.
That's those are the people you need to talk to because they have, if they're open anyways, they have a wealth of experience and examples they could draw from, just even from other people, hearing other people's story, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So now, a few times you mentioned as you were talking, and one of the impressions that I have gotten from you in our brief conversation before our interview was that the idea and the concept of role models has played a very important part in your life. Can you share with us? Is there in this is kind of two questions, so I always get so excited to ask questions, so I gotta just stop myself. But excuse me. Can you tell us what it's meant? Like, what are some role models in your life that you were able to, that left an impression on you that maybe you could draw some strength from, and why?
Are you talking about presently or in the
In
past?
the past, like over the course of your life, because you've had a very colorful history,
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
honestly, right?
yeah, sure.
And you yourself had to play such a role of, you basically became a parent
Mhm.
to your own siblings, and so
Mhm.
role modeling is obviously really plays a big part in the picture of who you are. But that would tell me that you would probably look for that in other people as well. So who are some people that were, whether during your time in being incarcerated or even since you've been out, who are some people that have kind of modeled for you along the way, and why?
Um, that's a good question. Early on, I would say my role model was always my mom.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I just seen uh, her drive. Her drive is like no other person that I've seen. And while I was incarcerated, I would have to say, yeah, like before I got incarcerated, I would say obviously my mom, and then I had a couple of teachers from elementary school to high school, like Mrs. Rahowski. She was one of my elementary school teachers. She was a great woman. I actually wrote her after I got incarcerated, and she
Hmm.
wrote back. So that was enlightening. And you know, and then while I was incarcerated, it was just it became more about people I didn't know at that point because I started reading a lot more, right? Because I was
Hmm.
incarcerated, so I was reading. I like to read a lot of people's biography.
Yeah.
So so there's various people that I read whose journey was, is just as crazy, or if not crazy, than mine, and
Hmm.
I drew strength from them. I drew strength from these people. Like when I'm reading about Nelson Mandela's living condition in Robben's Island,
Yeah.
and I look at my living condition in the jail up in the prison up here is, it's
Hmm.
a lot cushier than what they had. So
Yeah.
like I had to, those are the things that reminded me, like it could be worse, bro. Like, so
Yeah.
I drew strength from there, and then since I've been out, it's just um there's nobody like on TV that I could point to, but there are a few people around me that are close friends that they're peers actually, and they're my role models.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
they
It's
have their life together, and it's just for me, you don't have to have your life together. You just have to have a pure heart. You know what I
hmm.
mean? Like your intentions have to be pure, and you gotta have a pure heart, and that's what I gauge people off of these days.
Hmm. Yeah.